Okay, let's get into this real quick. Are you excited to talk about essentially what's going to be happening with food stamps going into next week? As you know, two judges have basically told Trump that he's got to use the money to pay food stamps. He's got to. There's no exception. He has to do it. Here's kind of the bottom line with that whole situation, though. Here is Judge John J. McConnell Jr.'s order from Rhode Island, specifically key language included. There's no question that the congressionally approved contingency funds must be used now because of the shutdown. In fact, the president during his first term issued guidance indicating that these contingency funds are available if SNAP funds lapse due to a government shutdown. They then continue basically to go into the court greatly appreciates the president's quick and definitive response to this court's order and his desire to provide the necessary SNAP funding. Okay, now here is Judge Indira Talwani's order from Massachusetts. Congress intended the funding of SNAP benefits at a reduced rate if necessary, because they don't have enough money, when appropriated funds prove insufficient. Quote, defendants' suspension of SNAP payments was based on the erroneous conclusion that the contingency funds could not be used to ensure continuation of SNAP payments. This court has now clarified that defendants are required to use those contingency funds as necessary for the SNAP program. The administration erred in concluding that the USDA was legally blocked from tapping the emergency reserves in the contingency fund during a lapse in federal funding. So those are basically the two orders, the important language specifically from them. And here's the deal. A lot of channels are reporting that food stamps are going to be coming very soon. You're going to be seeing them very soon. Here's the kicker. Trump still reserves the right to go ahead and appeal or do other types of legal maneuvers to slow down the process. After viewing his specific statements, those made on Air Force One, those made on Truth Social, it appears to me that he is playing the game of chicken with Chuck Schumer. I think Trump is very smart when it comes to economic policy interactions from international trade for reserve currencies and stuff like that. He's got entire teams of economic policy holders that are advising him. He's doing well there. He's doing beyond well there. But when it comes to understanding the homeless, the low income, those receiving food stamps, the EBTers, the food stampers, stuff like that, some of them had a bad shot in life. They were working really hard, didn't get enough quarters of coverage in. Bottom line is, the SSI didn't work out for them for some reason. So maybe they get a little bit of SSI, a little bit of food stamps. Bottom line is there is a little chunk of of food stamp recipients who had really, really bad luck. Then there is another really massive chunk of recipients of food stamps who, to be fair, right, have either come to this country seeking a better life, which, of course, it's America. America gives better lives, a higher standard of living than other countries. I'm not getting into the whole currency exchange thing, but you know what I mean. Now, with that said, one thing that I don't think President Trump understands, I don't think he fully understands this at all, is that in America, we have for 2 to 3 to 4 to even 5 generations have families who have never worked a job. Ever. I've represented some of them. I think about my 5th generation in a row. I know we definitely have 4 generations in a row, but there might have been a 5th generation. But the bottom line is this. There are quite a few Americans that a lot of you don't know about, right? Who basically have never had a job. They've never been able to have a job. Some of them were born with disabling conditions where they were unable to do work. And then some of them, to be honest, they're just part of an impoverished area. And under the regulatory, rules for able-bodied individuals prior to the big, beautiful bill, they were able to go ahead and get a check. Now, here's my thing. I don't think Trump realizes that people who have generation after generation after generation never had to work, I don't think he realizes that this whole game of chicken with Chuck Schumer is going to get them to want him to be their leader. In fact, what's going to happen is these food stamp recipients are going to go ahead and probably hate on Trump because all that's being pumped through the news is that Trump would not fund food stamps because he withheld the contingency funds because he had a legal argument, which, to be honest, was weak. It's very weak. It's incredibly weak. It should have never been made in the first place. The reason it was made, in my opinion, was that it was a tactic to stall the release of funds. Why is this important? It's important because at the end of the day, Donald Trump believed, and he's usually right about a lot of stuff when it comes to like the menagerie of how you wiggle through politics, but he believed, and he was wrong on this one, that the super poor, right, which are food stamp recipients, that they are going to annoy and become angry with Chuck Schumer as a result of food stamps not getting paid out. And that is because he believes that when the food stamps aren't paid out, they're going to be seeing a lot of action and movement on behalf of these food stampers. But to be fair, I work with food stamp recipients. I work with EBT recipients. I work with WIC recipients. I work with SSI recipients. I work with SSDI recipients. I can tell you on a phone call within 5 minutes how aggressive and active a person is going to be with making their life better. And I'm going to be very straight with you, and this is going to be a very unpopular thing that I'm going to say. It's a classic. It's some of you have heard that have worked with the homeless and low income at the homeless facilities. Some people are not meant to go to college. And that's shocking, especially to people who are like, how dare you? But some people are not meant to go to college. Some people are not meant to get a master's. Some people are not meant to get a doctorate. Some people are not meant to get postdoctorate. Some people are not even meant to get a high school diploma. It's just not on the cards for them. Trump believes that this mass group of food stamp-oriented individuals is going to magically rise up, become hyperactive, hyperachievers, and basically bowl Chuck Schumer over to make sure that Chuck Schumer feels the burn of the voters that are Democrats mostly, who want the government to reopen. That is the ideology, the theory in Trump's mind. And it's wrong. That is not what's going to happen. And that tells me that a lot of his advisors don't actually understand how the homeless work, don't understand how these super poor, poverty income-based individuals work. That tells me his advisors do not have somebody who actually understands how the poor work. The way it works, and the way this is all going to come down, in my opinion, and granted, remember, I'm just one opinion here. Granted, remember, independent, not Democrat, not Republican. Granted, remember, 12 years of owning a law firm, worked for 2 other law firms before that one, worked with homeless for a very long time, worked with one homeless facility for more than any other person in Florida or the United States in general, and is one of the most frequented homeless facilities in Florida. That is the Samaritan Resource Center. I am the oldest thing to that homeless facility. Of all the people that work there, of all the people that exist there, all the people that go there, I am the thing that has been there the longest, helping the homeless. My opinion is that all Trump is doing is sowing into the poverty class and the immigrant class and the homeless class that he was a bad choice. Now, at the end of the day, a good chunk of the food stamp recipients are Democrat. I'm not saying all of them. I've met some Republicans. I've met some independents. I even met a libertarian once, which shocked the hell out of me. So, and it shocked me. Just to be clear, it shocked me because, like, at the end of the day, when I interacted with them, there was no reason that they couldn't write a research paper. So I guess what my point comes down to is this. Trump believes these people will unite, become hyper excited, want to tell Schumer that he needs to reopen the government. That's not going to happen. What's going to happen is basically the homeless and low income, they can't donate money to the Democrats, but they are going to be constantly chitter-chattering through the grapevine. And remember, there's 2 grapevines. Or, well, I mean, technically 3, but one's just a digital grapevine that a lot of people blog about that the middle class use. There's the rich grapevine and the poor grapevine. The poor grapevine, all the poor know everything that the poor know. rich grapevine, all the rich group, talk about all the things that the rich people do. And the middle class uses blogs. Okay. At the end of the day, all that's going to happen is that you are going to see the poor become more willing to become more extreme in the way that they talk about Republicans, talk about Trump in the future. They're creating an army. That's what it is. Trump is creating an army that actually will go against him. Now, at the same time, the army is already mostly Democrat to begin with. Not saying all of them, but Chevy, thank you for the $2 donation. That's awesome. You teach us a lot and do a great job. Thank you. I super appreciate that. That's amazing. So I guess there's Leanne. Howdy, Leanne. Howdy, love pugs. Princess Diana. Very cool. Excellent. So here's one of the things that I hope you can understand from this, and it's incredibly important. The specific details that the judges gave as to expectations for them to pay out the money that they had in contingency, the back burner money, to pay it out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? Trump said, oh, well, we love to pay it out. We just need to get some clarification. What clarification did you need? I mean, it was very simple. Use the funds, try to find other funds to pay the full amount. And if you can only do partial payments, do the partial payments. There wasn't much confusion there. So what's happening is Trump is using a stall tactic, and politically, it might be smart. It might be brilliant. Remember, I am not a politician. I'm a disability lawyer. So when it comes to politics, I give you guys what I think, and then you build on it. I read your comments, and some of them, have really good ideas in them. But at the end of the day, here's what I think is going to happen. If we go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, if we go into all of these, moments, these hours where people are not getting the food stamps that they expect. And granted, remember, not all of them get food stamps traditionally on essentially the same day. Some of them get it on the 10th, the 15th, the 20th. They're not sweating bullets there. They're going to get their food stamps down the line because they know that. But those early monthers, right? The first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, that's going to be interesting because those individuals are going to have to go and change their lifestyle to get food. Now, I'm going to be very straightforward with you about something you probably don't know. You might know this. If you're super low income, you know this. But to change the schedule, to change the routine of essentially, an impoverished individual, that could potentially massively injure their life. I know this sounds dramatic, and I'm not trying to make it dramatic, but poor people, if you have to change the routine, it means massively more than the middle class. The middle class got to change the routine and go to some other place for lunch, go to some other place to do business there, go to some other reschedule. It's not a big deal. You just drive there, you do the thing, you switch it up. But when you have to change the routine of impoverished people, it's massive. And it's massive for two reasons. Number one, they don't have the resources to change the schedule because every change costs money and they don't have it. And number two, they also are not accustomed to having to do a lot throughout the day. I know a lot of people are like, oh, don't say that. No, it is what it is. They're not accustomed to having to wake up at this time, get pushed around by the boss by this time, go ahead and have to finish the report by this time, have to interact with this by this time, and then have to go ahead and complete this all before lunch. They're not used to that. They're used to a much slower day. I say this about the disabled. Disabled people are used to a much slower day. Like disabled people, they don't understand taxes for the most part because they don't exist in their life for the most part, right? They pay taxes when they buy some food, right? But they're not like at the end of the day trying to figure out all the accounting for their taxes and oh, what am I going to do? Taxes, they're gone. They're out of their life for the most part. But the day is longer and at the same time shorter because disabled people become accustomed to that day being, something other than what the middle class experiences. So my point to you is we're about to go through each and every single state, which states are going to be doing the emergency releases. And that way you basically have a full understanding of what each state is going to be doing going forward and kind of going from there. And I hope you understand. I'm just texting someone real quick. I hope you understand that at the end of the day, this is a unique moment. It's a unique moment because the government feeds off the people, and we got to stop letting the government feed off us. And we got to start making the government work for us. And I know that some of you who are Republican are going to say we should not have money for every American because it's going to make them lazy. I don't know if that's true. If we give everybody a small check to survive, like, make food a right or something, make health insurance for all and food a right, right? What craziness would that be? Imagine if you were an American and you were guaranteed from birth a meal at least once a day and health insurance. Imagine that. How horrible would that be, right? I guess to me, at the end of the day, I guess what I want to say to you is, look, I get it. America is trillions, the 38 plus trillion in debt. I get it. But I don't think most Americans did that. Like if we're going to look at blame and we're going to blame a particular group and be like, oh, that group of Americans, oh, that group of Americans, oh, well, that group, they had calculators, so they should have known. Most Americans who are middle-class individuals have no clue as to how economic policy works both in this country and outside of this country. And we're 38 trillion in debt. I think it's pretty clear who effed it all up. And that's called the politicians. I think it's pretty clear why they effed it all up. And it's called world currency circulation manipulation. And to be fair, at the end of the day, when I think about all this stuff, it is weird, is it not, that our retirement age keeps trying to grow into the future. If America really cared about its citizens, why not just keep the retirement age at 65? People are living longer. Yeah, well, they earned it. They partook in the experiment of America. And as a result of that, they were able to live longer and enjoy more because every generation is supposed to have a better life in America. I mean, not anymore, but that was the quote. That was like the American dream subquote. The American dream was like the house, car, garage, TV. The subquote was every generation gets a better life than the prior one. I mean, am I wrong? You tell me. That's what I heard when I was growing up. That's how it was supposed to be. Star Fury, thank you for the $10 donation. Let me put a big heart there. He said, as an honorable war veteran, it's very heartbreaking to get up and go to work as a government employee and work for free. I'm not homeless and I pay my taxes. Damn if you do, damn if you don't. And that's another thing. Air traffic controllers, general agency or administration employees. It is weird to see this power struggle between these two showmen, if you will. Now, let's get right to it. Specifically, these are the states that have done an emergency release. So that way, going straight into Monday, what's coming, okay? But real quick first, just to understand, basically, the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, said that basically SNAP food benefits could restart as early as Wednesday. That was our puzzle piece to say, I think Trump is willing to start the payments, willing to pay out the money probably by Wednesday. But again, he still reserves the right to play trial tactics and veto what's going on. All right, first one, California. They're implementing disaster emergency plans. They're trying to support food assistance. They're putting $80 million into food banks and deploying the National Guard to assist with the distribution of food. Good job, California. Although that's probably not going to be enough, but good job. Delaware. We got Governor Matt Mayer declared a state of emergency on October 29th, a couple days ago. They're directing their budget office to find the funds to basically allocate enough to cover SNAP benefits weekly through November for approximately 60,000 households. Now, remember, these states are probably not going to get paid back if they put their own money into these food stamps. So these states, instead of being like, yeah, we're going to give you the full amount of food stamp, they're probably not going to do that. They're probably going to break it down and give you a week's worth and a week's worth and a week's worth, because every one of those weeks worth, they're probably not going to get paid for or paid back for. So, they're going to inch the stuff out and like, let it roll out in a slow way, Next one, Louisiana. You got Governor Jeff Landry declared a state of emergency on October 24th, authorizing $150 million in state funding for SNAP benefits for over 800,000 participants, with initial funding from the Department of Health. So 150 million. Okay, so just to give you an idea, California, 80 million, Louisiana, 150 million. And we're talking about little Louisiana over here. And that's not little, but you know what I mean? We're talking bayou country. You know what I mean? 150 million to avoid interruptions in SNAP benefits for over 800,000 participants. So Louisiana is really picking up the tab on this one. Next one, Maryland. Governor Wes Moore declares state of emergency October 30th. That's one day after Delaware. They're only putting $10 million into emergency funding to food banks and partner organizations. New Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy, same thing, state of emergency, federal suspension of SNAP benefits. So what they're doing is they're trying to unlock state resources for general food aid. But, the bottom line is all these states are holding back from releasing too much money because they think food stamps are coming at some point. New Mexico, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham declared a state of emergency, $30 million in state funding for food assistance and issuing executive orders to support the effort. New York, we've got Governor Kathy Hochul. I'm not even sure. Hochul? Yeah, I think it's Hochul. I don't know. She's new. So declared state of emergency on October. She's not that new, but all right. So October 30th, $100 million, including $65 million for food banks, pantries, basically food assistance to support 2.9 million recipients. So just to be clear, Louisiana is still the winner, 150 million, followed by New York so far, and then California at 80 million. Oregon, Governor Tina Kotek declared a 60-day food security emergency, $5 million to the state's food banks. Okay, obviously that ain't much, but it's Oregon. You know what I mean? It's Oregon. Pennsylvania, big state, state of emergency. They're working on basically getting food to the different locations. They're shifting resources. They're not going to be a big money state. Well, they might be. We'll see what they actually do. Rhode Island, okay? Rhode Island, Governor Dan McKee, state of emergency, $6 million from temporary assistance for needy families, TANF. That'll cover about 20,000 families and about 65,000 people out of 145,000 SNAP enrollees. So bottom line is, $6 million. Not a lot, not a ton, but, it's something. It's something. Next one, Virginia, Governor Glenn Youngkin, state of emergency on October 23rd. Now, what's interesting about Virginia is that when they did their state of emergency, it was like really early, which to me shows that they were actually paying attention to what was going on. October 23rd, they did their state of emergency, $37.5 million per week in state funds to basically replace SNAP for the 850,000 people. Okay. And remember, again, they're rolling out the weekly benefits because they don't know when the government is going to come back online to actually pay. But again, 37.5 million, Virginia, good job. Wyoming, remember, not a lot of people in Wyoming. Governor Mark Gordon declared a welfare emergency on October 31st, ordering up to 10 million in state money. Okay. It's going to be going to food banks, charities, things like that. Okay. Now, let's go through. Those are the ones that are doing like a big emergency thing. Now we're going to go through each state. We're going to specifically go through quickly so that we can get to the next video directly after this. But before we go into each state, please remember to like and subscribe. Also, if you have Medicare questions, if you want to do a tune-up on your Medicare, get your Medicare Advantage program going, remember right here, 339-226-6287. Again, 339-226-6287 or askchapter.org/disability. Doesn't take long. All the people that I've sent over there, I hear good things back from that, contact me back about it. They're all happy. So let them do a tune-up if you want. Alabama. Benefits are obviously suspended. They are still processing applications and eligibilities. But bottom line is, it's one of those things where there's not much going on there. There's just not much going on there. What I think is they're just going to have to wait until basically the federal government reopens and the money comes out. Alaska. Similar. Still continue to do applications, still continue to do recertifications. They have typhoon affected areas that are getting money. Other than that, Alaska is pretty much, you have to wait until the government opens back up. Arizona. So basically, they're directing recipients to local food banks. They have food bank networks. They're doing some funding. That's their main plan. Arkansas, prepare for delays. Urge use of pantries, churches. And then, of course, there's a battle there, but the governor is a Republican, so he's unhappy with the Democrats. California, about 80 million, like we talked about. Deploying the National Guard. 5.5 million to CalFresh, and they are setting up food pantries. Colorado, they don't have enough money to cover the food stamps. 10 million to food banks. They are part of the suit against Trump. And then basically, they're doing what they can. Colorado has become a deep, deep blue state. A deep, deep blue state. Like Colorado is becoming more Democrat, even though a lot of the states are becoming more Republican right now, based on the graphs. Colorado. Connecticut, 3 million to supplemental via food share. They're looking at other ways to get money into basically the food banks and pantries. Delaware, they're going to be doing, the state will cover the benefits weekly through November. So that's like a huge thing. That means, every week somebody's going to have some food to be able to survive, etc. And look, let's be honest, like at the end of the day, Delaware is probably not going to have to pay out that much in food stamps. The food stamps will probably start paying out somewhere between the 3rd and I would say the 7th. I would say between the 3rd and the 7th, that's when you can expect this turmoil to end. Do I think that Trump and Schumer will work things out by then? I don't know. Like if food stamps get turned on. Okay, so have you guys noticed that government functions are not getting paid, but people are still working? You're going to start to see more and more people being furloughed, more and more people kind of like looking for a different job. And I think this is all part of Trump's plans to try and reduce the amount of workforce. Because, at the end of the day, what's happening is, just to kind of be clear with this whole thing, what's happening is, Trump is trying to massively reduce the size of the government. And this tactic might work, because he is making a lot of federal employees feel like their ultra safe job is not very safe. Next one, Delaware. District of Columbia. Attorney General signed letters to the USDA on reserves, food bank funding. Basically, they're trying to find funds. They know that the food isn't there, so they're just trying to bring in food. So that's kind of what they're doing. Florida, basically, they're doing a political thing to talk about whether or not they should fund SNAP. Work requirements are in effect. Yeah, by the way, November 1st, yesterday, was when a lot of those states that opted in to have work requirements for a lot of those able-bodied individuals without young dependents, those are fully, and a lot of you guys don't realize, if you're receiving food stamps, you might be receiving a lesser food stamp because of the new rules that are going into place in November. Okay, next one. Georgia. So, not lots of stuff going on with Georgia. Food stamps, funding to the pantries, funding to basically, getting food delivered, but not much is going on there. Next one, I'm going to bring up Guam because, to be fair, they're doing a lot. They are funding the SNAP benefits with 12.3 million and WIC with 800,000 all the way through November. So, Guam making all the states look bad. Guam is kicking butt. Hawaii, public radio stuff. Basically, work requirements are in place. Hawaii. I thought more would be going on with Hawaii, but they're not doing. They are providing some funding, but it's not much. Idaho, food bank, assistance. They're expecting a lot of people to have to go to the food banks, is what it is. But remember, Idaho is also a largely agricultural area. So at the end of the day, to be fair, kind of the farm people kind of take care of their own. You know what I mean? That's just how it is. And it's farm country. There's lots of food there. Illinois, basically food pantry stuff. Indiana, Not much going on there at all. Not much going on there at all. Iowa, food bank stuff, trying to go ahead and get more food into the pantries. Kansas, nothing going on there. Kentucky, basically, they're suing the USDA. They were doing some things. I'm not sure if they're sticking to it now because I think they feel like, the funding is coming. Louisiana, declared an emergency, 150 million approved for SNAP by the health department. There may be staff furloughs, but basically food stamps for the most part will largely be on track for payments. Maine, call 211. If it gets really bad, call 911. Food pantry stuff. I think honestly, Maine is one of those states where it's going to affect a lot of people negatively because the center of Maine is a high poverty area. So, and it's also an area where people it's one of those things where Maine is warmer than it ever used to be. Like Maine used to be really, really cold, but past 30 years now, it's been warming up there. So to be fair, but it's still not like a farming area. Like you couldn't really be like a heavy duty farmer in Maine. Maybe a blueberry farmer, but you wouldn't be like a heavy duty farmer in Maine. For the most part, I mean, you can do some stuff, but it's not like you got fields and fields and fields and fields and fields and fields of corn. It's just not, you could have fields of pine cones, but I think Maine's going to be heavily affected by this situation. Maryland, $10 million to food banks. Obviously, they're telling people to go ahead and use the food banks. Massachusetts, $4 million from state to double food bank payments. They are seeking donations. Massachusetts, you are a very blue state. We expect more. Michigan, 71 million bill for assistance. Good job. 4.5 million to food banks and basically stocking extra food. I don't know if you guys realize this, but a lot of food banks at this point are not receiving the food they're supposed to because a lot of the companies are holding on to the food because they believe people will be going out there and buying a lot of these, a lot of the food and resources that are out there because people have anxiety and fear what's going on. And these companies that normally donate the food, they're holding on to it because if they can sell it at a higher price, which is the price they sell it to you, as opposed to donating it for, the amount of, deduction that they get on their taxes, they'd rather sell it. Financially, it makes more sense for them to sell it than to go ahead and donate it. So that's why food pantries don't have as much food right now. They're playing that game. All right, Mississippi. Bottom line is, state isn't really doing much, if anything. Just they're not doing much. Missouri, 10.6 million to aging agencies, 5 million to food banks. They're still processing applications, so rocking it. Jill Billy too. Thank you for the $5 donation. That's absolutely amazing. Let me put a big heart there. Thank you. Very cool. Let's see. Thanks, info. Very good. Excellent. We're going to hit now. Again, thank you for the $5 donation. I'm putting funds into creating this studio, and it's heavily built. It's just not everything's hooked up yet. I have to learn more about what are called patch bays, where you patch all of the gear together. That's I have to learn them this week. I know a little bit about them, but it's been a little bit scary because there's so many damn things you can plug things into. It's just Montana. Not much going on there. Nebraska, same gig. Nevada, funding, is out November 1st. They're looking for more state aid to happen. And, they're trying to go ahead and make it better. They're trying to go ahead and do more. New Hampshire, $2 million were sent. Partner with food banks. Using remaining benefits, they tell people, through November as much as they can. And, oh no, Interior Family True Crime. Did I miss your membership? Hold on. I'm so sorry. I missed it. Let me see if I scroll. Let me scroll. I can't find it. It's too far up. I missed it. I am so sorry. I missed it. Interior Family True Crime. I'm so sorry. But thank you for the membership. That's absolutely amazing because all this stuff helps me build a bigger, better studio. Because, most of my stuff is USB camera, USB mic into my old laptop. That's literally it. The laptop I take to different locations, that's the better laptop. And we're on the junk laptop. This is my 8-year-old laptop that we do these on, just so you know. All right, next one. All right, New Jersey. Governor urges use of the $5 billion contingency, the 5.25, blames the Republicans, and for the most part, isn't doing that much. I mean, they're doing the suit thing. That's part of it. New Mexico, $30 million for the first 10 days. Emergency plan with the organizations and the schools for food payments to make sure children do not go home hungry. New Jersey, if you want to learn anything, check out New Mexico. New York declared emergency, over $100 million for food. New York City adds $15 million to that, basically, and looks at school meals as well to make sure kids don't go home hungry. Bottom line is this: good job, New York. North Carolina, basically not doing much. North Dakota, $1.5 million to programs. They're saying that they just don't have an infrastructure of pantries to begin with, which is true, but it's North Dakota. There's just not that many people up there. Northern Mariana Islands, 3.9 in emergency appropriation requested. Ohio, $25 million for families. Basically, they understand that there's going to be an increased demand for essentially their food banks, so they put money up, $25 million. Oklahoma, basically tribal nation stuff, and it's one of those things where not much is going on. Oregon, $5 million food banks for the TANF, and just keep in mind they don't have anything for December, so it just is yay. Interior Family did another one, sent 5 Social Security disability benefit video gift memberships. The new members are Cisco, Chaos Queen, Old Scrappy, Scrubs, Southern Belle, and Deb Carter. Oh no, wait, Deb Carter's already a member. Never mind. Excellent. I think Princess Diana and Deb Carter are the oldest members that are in this club, which is absolutely amazing. Princess Diana, if you get a chance, put how many months you're in the membership. Deb Carter, same gig. Okay, so let's keep rocking and rolling. All right, so we've been through, Pennsylvania. We already know not much is going on. Puerto Rico, whatever we send out Puerto Rico doesn't usually end up in the people's hands. So you know what I mean? Whatever numbers thrown at you, you got to remember it's probably not what's actually ending up in the people's kitchens. Rhode Island, basically National Guard, food pantries, rapid response, yada yada. South Carolina, they did one South Carolina fund activation. They've got their state guard assisting food banks. But it's basically federal government is going to have to actually do the benefits. South Dakota, not many people there. 1.5 million to programs. They lack the infrastructure like we talked about. Tennessee, bottom line is they're claiming that they don't have the mechanism to actually put money onto the cards. Expect not getting money. That's their main thing. Tennessee's like, just, you're going to have to wait. That's basically what Tennessee's about. Texas, they're not issuing any funds past October 27th, which were already passed. Obviously, food bank demand is increasing. They're trying to get food to food banks. Utah pantries are getting basically more funding, more food. Vermont, $6.3 million to backfill for 15 days, which is good. Get that money on the card. Virginia, they declared the emergency. We know that they're doing quite a bit. $37.5 million weekly from surplus starting November 3rd. Covers WIC. So basically, Virginia, I think, out of all of them, is pretty much the winner. And I don't think it's because Virginia is for lovers. I think we can change that now to be Virginia is for food stamp recipients. I think that would be a fair assumption in this situation. Virgin Islands, they're not doing anything. Washington, $2 million weekly to food banks. CL adds up to $4 million monthly. Attorney General is on the USDA letter. Part of the whole, why they're angry thing. West Virginia, nothing's going on. Wisconsin, they ran out at the end of October. Basically, contact your representatives, complain, see if they can get Trump or Schumer to reopen the government. Wyoming, basically, they're monitoring the situation and they're not doing anything about it beyond that. Now, I do like to remind people that food stamps are, basically not a traditional constitutional right. Okay, food stamps are a lesser right. There's so much of a lesser right that basically they don't even have to give you a hearing when they intend to go ahead and remove them from, essentially your receipt of them. And the reason that this kind of is shocking to people at the end of the day is that a lot of people believe that food stamps should be a constitutional right, but they're not. They're a statutory benefit. They created, governed by federal statute, but they are not a constitutional right. And keep in mind, like at the end of the day, there's Supreme Court rulings, Ling v. Castillo, Atkins v. Parker, and then of course there's lower court rulings as well. But the bottom line is that, there's all these requirements. They're allowed to add requirements, remove requirements, and make you ineligible. They are allowed to do that stuff. Now, with that said, here's what I believe is going to happen as the days roll out. There's going to be this increasing pressure to go ahead and reopen the government because, we're past a month now. We're like a month and 2 days now. And what I think is going to happen is you're going to be seeing riots and a lot of Antifa funded riots and a lot of BLM sort of like rioty stuff. They kind of fit into that category now. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to really rally a lot of Democrats to feel like they are validated in their anger towards Trump. And I think also, if there's enough violence, then the middle class will get nervous and start to get on Trump to go ahead and reopen the government. And I think that if the middle class starts to get that fearful of getting injured, harmed, seriously, whatever, as a result of people that are becoming super hyper aggressive and super hyper active and being, violent, then I think Trump will be forced to go ahead and reopen the government by negotiating with the Democrats. However, to be fair, both the Republicans and the Democrats are now at the point where they ain't budging. It's either clean bill or lots of funding for subsidizing people who can't afford their health insurance and funding for medical facilities and such that goes towards low income, legal immigrants, and those who are here illegally. And, again, my final thought on that whole situation, look, I get it. Nobody wants to pay for people who are here illegally. I get it. Okay. I understand that. But if you don't pay for the clinics, the emergency clinics, the emergency rooms, if you don't pay for that stuff in rural areas, in high poverty areas, then you're just going to get people that get sick. Those people that get sick will then get other people sick. And that is how you start a pandemic. Literally, that's one of the ways you can start a pandemic, because a virus, a bacteria, a fungus in somebody who's not getting properly treated, that shit will spread and it will be horrible. And I get it. Nobody wants to pay for the treatment, but at the same time, nobody wants to get sick from something that's really, really bad. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, ICE is going to remove them at some point. They got to find them. Then they got to remove them. They got to export them. But during the time since they're here, since Biden welded open the gates, I'm just not, I don't know. I'd almost would rather just fund it, you know what I mean? For like another 6 months. Like, if it were me, I would fund it for like another 6 months while ICE did its thing, because nobody wants to get sick. That's just my opinion. Okay. I get it, but I get the other side too. Nobody wants to spend money on people that are not supposed to be here when they were coming to this country illegally. I get it. I don't disagree with you. I do get it. All right. We've gone over a significant amount of information. Please remember to like and subscribe. We're now going to be doing the next video, which is about Social Security benefits. And Trump just got some news from the commissioner of the Social Security Administration that is not super good news. I'm just going to be fair with you. It's not good news at all. With that said, please remember to like and subscribe. If you enjoy these videos, head over to Google, type in Disability Resolution Law Firm, throw some stars up there. Also, when I go live on Mondays and Thursdays, I answer questions for free about disability law. I'm America's most viewed, subscribed to, and clicked on disability attorney. If you need a disability attorney, you can always go ahead and hire me. Just a note to those people who are hiring disability attorneys. When you go to hire a group, you should ask them, does your group have attorneys? That's like step one. A lot of you get that wrong. You don't ask that. Step two is, are those attorneys working for your firm? Because there's a whole group now of mega advertisers for disability benefits, like Atticus and stuff like that, where they're a law firm But what they do is they have attorneys that work on sales, and their whole thing is they get the client to call them, and then they forward the client out to basically other law firms who pay them a fee for the receipt of that client. So ask them, when you call that law firm, is the lawyer that's going to be sitting next to me in that hearing or doing the telephonic hearing with me, or, you know, working with me on the forms or this or that, or talking with me about what's in the claim, is that lawyer the lawyer that's working at your firm? Because there's a lot of funny business going on now in the legal field that never existed before. And to be honest with you, like, Google reviews used to be like the gold standard, and some of the crappiest, bleepiest firms have 10,000 plus 5-star reviews. And I'm just like, that is just, it's heart-wrecking to me, because I spent so much time working so hard to get my reviews, and to see some of these other firms just, like, you know, magically rack up 10,000, 14,000, 20,000, whatever. I'm just like, I know people are unhappy with them all the time because I get called by them, and yet they have these mega reviews. So I just be aware, if you're going to hire a lawyer to help you win the benefits, just be aware you might not actually be hiring a lawyer that works at that firm. It might just be a fake, or not fake. It's a real law firm that doesn't actually do the legal work. Yeah, I know. Sounds shitty, but they do that now. There's lots of those now. They're just referral law firms, which to me, it's just, you know what I mean? Like, how much shittier could we be to the American people? Imagine somebody calling up a group and they're like, hey, we'll be your law firm. And the person's like, cool, awesome. And they're like, did you see our 5-star? They're like, yeah, you got lots and lots, right? Okay, cool. And then the next 2 or 3 calls are them getting forwarded to some other law firm that actually has lawyers that do that form of law. Like, that's just, I don't know. I don't think that's okay. MC Recovery and Relapse. Thank you for the $3 donation. Love it. Love the little dancing hippo. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Looks like a military hippo right there. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Shelly, welcome to the Appreciation Call. I super appreciate it. That's amazing. There's 2 membership levels. Appreciation is one of them, which is absolutely incredible. So thank you. All right. With that said, I will see you at the next video in probably about 10 minutes. I'm going to let the doggies go outside and then come back in, and then we'll get rocking and rolling. Attorney Walter Hnot, have a wonderful day. I'll see you in 10 minutes. Thank you so much. I'll catch you later, everyone. All right. Bye-bye.